Nur-Sultan and Yerevan are focusing on enhancing cooperation. The promising areas for bilateral partnership are in IT sphere, trade and creation of joint enterprises. Armenian experts suggested that the countries can use the potential of Mehri Free Economic Zone, located on the border of Iran, as a platform to expand the cooperation, particularly in terms of trade. Meanwhile, diplomats emphasize that Kazakhstan and Armenia are in constant dialogue and interaction.
Армения – это наш ближайший партнер по Евразийскому экономическому союзу.
Armenia is our closest partner in the EAEU, CSTO, as well as not to mention the CIS and the international multilateral organizations starting from the UN and OSCE. The thing is that even if we are in the same integration association, it is important that we should have an understanding of the equally same processes in terms of the events that are happening in the society and in the world. If we don't have a single approximate understanding, we cannot hope for more or less objective assessments from both the Armenian and Kazakh societies.
Объективные оценки со стороны как армянского, так и казахстанского общества.
Political scientist Johnny Malikian said that Kazakhstan demonstrates clear priorities for political and economic reforms, as well as the readiness of the authorities for constructive dialogue with society and commitment to a strategy of building of a stronger state. All these aspects have been reflected in the State of the Nation address of Kazakh President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev.
Все-таки надо зафиксировать, что с момента вхождения Армении в Евразийский союз
It must be noted that since Armenia entered the EAEU, the country has had economic relations that were previously highly difficult to implement. But now we have trade activities which is increasing. Therefore, there is a process, or rather a dynamic in cooperation. In this regard, the upcoming official visit of the President of Kazakhstan will also potentially open a new stage in the interstate relations between Kazakhstan and Armenia. Based on this agenda, we can and should include as much areas of cooperation as possible in which we have the capability to implement.
У нас сегодня есть уже видение возможности реализации.
Two people were wounded in the shooting in California, the United States. According to the police, the shooting occurred in the mall of the Bakersfield city. The incident occurred between two groups of people. One of the shooters fled the scene. Investigations are being carried out to determine the cause of the incident. Anti-governmental protests are escalating in Colombia. In Bogota, thousands of demonstrators have been opposing for the fifth day against economic policy, police violence, and government inaction in the fight against crime. President of the country met with representatives of business and unions who organized the first wave of protests. However, the using of tear gas and sound grenade by policemen made the protesters angry, especially after an 18-year-old demonstrator was injured. A brazen robbery occurred in Dresden, Germany, recently. The unknown burglar stole an ancient jewelry from the largest museum in Europe, the Green Vault. According to local media reports, the burglar stole 3 sets of jewelries, which consist of 37 parts of each items made of precious stones. Based on assumption, the exhibits stolen from the treasury are worth almost 1 billion euros. 90% of public services will be available online for Kazakhs next year. One of the main priorities of Kazakhstan is to provide the services uninterruptedly through the e-government website. As a result of the 10 months of 2019, more than 10 million users were registered, while 36.5 million services were provided on the eGov website. In addition, a new mobile application, eGov Mobile, providing 31 services to citizens, has been developed. It is planned to launch another 32 services soon until the end of the year. The level of digital literacy in Kazakhstan amounted to over 79.5% as of last year.
Жыл соңына дейін мемлекеттік қызметтердің 80%-ына халық интернет
80% of the public services will be available online to the population by the end of the year. We must increase this indicator to 90%. According to the Digital Kazakhstan program, Kazakhstan has to take the 28th place in the e-government development index of the UN in 2020. Currently, we are at the 39th place. We need to take measures to achieve the indicator.
39-шы орындамыз. Мемлекеттік бағдарламалардың саналы индикаторына қол жеткізу үшін шаралар қабылдау қажет.
A cooperation agreement was signed by the Kazakh Ministry of Information and Social Development and the United Nations Volunteers Program. The commitment to strengthen the partnership between the intergovernmental organization and Kazakhstan includes the support and involvement of Kazakhs in the ranks of UN volunteers. In May this year, President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev has supported the idea of participants of the Kazakh-Russian Youth Forum on declaring the year 2020 as the volunteer year in Kazakhstan.
Having your president decide that 2020 will be the year of volunteerism will really build a case further in Kazakhstan for really honoring the work of the volunteers and promoting volunteerism, also in support of Kazakhstan reaching the Agenda 2030 and the Sustainable Development Goals. I think, Kazakhstan traditionally has been a country with a lot of people to support. This principle, this azar, as you call it, I understand in Kazakh, is something that's quite ingrained in the culture.
Kazakhstan's experience is once again in the spotlight of the world community. American professor Charles Gilman said that the country's successful reforms in higher education can be used as a model in other countries. The development specialist from the United States was among the first foreign professors at Nazarbayev University who was involved in the creation of a world-class university. Today, the scientist said that Kazakhstan had previously set a long-term goal of diversifying its investments. Charles Gilman is convinced that in the era of globalization, human capital is becoming the main asset of the state.
And the vision, I believe it worked. The Bolshak was brilliant. As a professor, so I think about the education system. Part of my job was reforming the education around Nazarbayev University. My proudest thing is obviously the students, and I talk to them now, and they're finishing medical school. They are doing work in Oxford and.
Janil Abilbek is a PhD student. After graduating from the Kazakh British University, she enrolled into a master's program in Romania. Having returned to her homeland, Janil did her research in Kizilorda. The scientist believes that today, all the conditions for conducting the research have been created in the country. For example, this Eco-Fourier spectrometer shows quantitative and qualitative analysis. When determining the quality of the material, it is possible to find out what kind of substances can be added and what kinds are not needed. It is also possible to determine the precise porosity of quantitative substances in a microscope and see the exact diagonals and diameters. This is available in just 5 to 15 minutes. The process is optimized and modernized. Everything is easy and convenient. There is no similar modern educational laboratory of physical and biological chemistry in the region as the laboratory in Kizilorda. There are 3 parts to the laboratory, which include the physical, colloidal, and the organic and inorganic research complex. The facility is built with the conditions for in-depth analysis of one of the most complex areas of science, the physical chemistry.
Этот центр поможет развитию в целом химического образования.
This center will help the development of chemical education and conducting research by the younger generation, including undergraduates, graduates, and PhD students. We plan to conduct research not only for students of the university, but also for the students of the entire region, including gifted children, students of lyceum and high schools. The doors are open for all the young people who are keen in science. Furthermore, the researches will be carried out qualitatively at the highest level of world standards.
На уровне мировых стандартов.
Today, 150 applicants in Kizilorda have received the opportunity to use the Laboratory of Applied Chemical and Biological Research. They can also visit a library that has the latest educational research literature. The Epicenter of Peace book by Nursultan Nazarbayev, which was translated into Norwegian language, was presented in Oslo. Kazakh ambassador to Norway, Yerkin Akhinjanov, noted that the nuclear disarmament process is a huge legacy of the first president of Kazakhstan. He also said that this year marks the 70th year since the Soviet Union first conducted the atomic bomb tests near Semipalatinsk. The test site was closed by the decree of Nursultan Nazarbayev on August 29, 1991. The Epicenter of Peace Joly's book tells about the history of nuclear tests in Kazakhstan, and it also invites readers to think about building a world free of nuclear weapons. The Norwegian version of the book was made available by international political scientist Nikolai Gerov. The first nuclear weapons tests were conducted at the Semipalatinsk test site in 1949. Today in Norway, we paid attention once again to this problem, as well as on the global and historical decision of the first president of Kazakhstan, Nursultan Nazarbayev, to close the Semipalatinsk nuclear test site that is regarded as an important decision to the entire international community. A common Turkic history class will be introduced in schools in Kyrgyzstan in 2020. This was announced at the Kazakh-Kyrgyz Forum of Intellectuals in Bishkek. The initiative allows deeper understanding of the roots of Turkic countries, scientists said. The subject is included in the school curriculum as an elective subject in Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, and Turkey. Meanwhile, 3 historical books were presented at a meeting recently. Representatives of the intellectuals of the countries attended the event as well. Historians have learned about the history of Kazakhs and Kyrgyz, and they also found new information about the nations.
Biz 3 кітептің беташарын жасап жатырмыз. Бұны Халықаралық Түрік Академиясы басмадан шығарды.
We are presenting 3 books at this event. These books were published by the International Turkic Academy. We have translated Kyrgyz epics into Kazakh language. The books were published both in Kazakh and Kyrgyz languages. This is a story about the historical processes of the Mongolian state.
Moğolistan деген бирдиктүү мамлекетибиздин учурундағы тарихи учурду процесстерди чагылдырган дастан болуп эсептелет.
Domestic tourism is becoming increasingly popular in Kyrgyzstan. Osh city is one of the most popular destinations among its citizens. Even in winter, at least a dozen flights fly daily from Bishkek to the largest southern regional center. Osh is not only the second largest city in Kyrgyzstan, but also one of the oldest in Central Asia. It was this city that the caravans on the Great Silk Road had crossed. Many travelers come to enjoy the Suleiman Mountain, visit ancient mosques, and the Oriental Bazaar. The Kyrgyz government plans to attract foreign tourists as well. For this purpose, international companies are given the opportunity to be involved in the passenger air transportation market. The competition will reduce costs and establish direct flights with global travel centers. There are direct and charter flights. This means that the price is low and there is an opportunity to buy the travel package in advance. A ready-made tour package from a tour operator with direct flight and accommodation at the hotel is available. Cereal growers of the largest corn sowing enterprise Olja Agro in Kostanay region took part in a harvest competition at the Day of Agricultural Workers. More than 280,000 tons of wheat was harvested this year, even during drought season. This is a 10th part of the total area in the region. There are 37 centners of wheat per hectare. We also paid attention to the seeding rate, the depth of seed placement, and the quality of the steam treatment. Despite the drought, average yield on the fields of the enterprise amounted to 14 centners per hectare. Our enterprise managed to reach high results compared to last year because we are using the advanced agro technologies in our work. For us, it is necessary to love our job, to work effectively. The enterprise treats its employees with special care. More than 400 farmers won distinctions due to their hard work. One of the winners, Alexei Baynazarov, is a leader of one of the farming groups. Meanwhile, machine operators from Banovka village won not only money worth millions, but also the title of the best workers. This year, we have collected up to 35 centners of wheat and barley. This is the result of the introduction of the new varieties. Olja Agro Enterprise has increased the salary up to 30% last year. On-it workers received an additional salary bonus of 20%. Kazakh cinematography will be introduced to the world. Next year, the blockbuster about Saka ruler Tomiris will be screened in Russia. The historical film will also be made available in China, Turkey, and the Middle East. The announcement was made by the film director Akan Satayev during the movie premiere in Moscow, held as part of the Kazakhstan Film Week, organized with the support of the Kazakh embassy in Russia. The film festival is dedicated to the anniversary of writer Abish Kekilbayev. It is very interesting to watch how it was in the past, how our ancestors were fighting for our present state, for our independence. The faces in the film are so beautiful, truly very beautiful. It was very nice to watch the film.